Welcome to the Flock and Hive podcast, a place for curious minds to explore all that makes life so weird and wonderful. And this week,
so this is quite particular to the non-alc space that, they still want that occasional and ritual that they might have to replace the alcohol moment. But actually at that moment when they're choosing to not drink, they're more conscious of what they're putting in their bodies. And so they look at the back label and they say, oh, apple cider vinegar. And I actually know or have heard that this is something that is doing me good, supports digestion. More evidence is coming out to show that it helps to steady your blood glucose levels as well, which people are understanding actually helps reduce inflammation. So I would put it within the functional space from that perspective, that it supports your well-being. But for us, pleasure and enjoyment is at the heart of well-being as well.
We speak to Bethan Higson from Mother Root London.
hello and welcome back to episode 19 of the Flock and Hive podcast.
Hello, nearly end of series 2.
Yeah, so this is an episode that seems to tie together quite a few chats we've had before. So we're going to be talking to Bethan, who is the founder of a new style of drink called a switchel, and we'll talk about what that means in a minute. But really, it's a lot of chat about why apple cider vinegar is so good for us in ways that we might not have considered before.
I've been buying everything that people we've been talking to have to offer, so this is the next on the list.
Well, same actually. So can we go back to the word switchel? This isn't the word of the week, but it almost feels like it should be. Isn't it a great word?
I mean, it almost sounds like witchy, doesn't it? Switchel, witchy, potions, brews.
It does, and I think that's why I like it as well. And I thought that she'd made it up because it's something that you're switching from alcohol to try, or that you're switching in between alcohol and something that isn't alcohol, for example. But no, it goes back to the colonial era, and we used to be called haymakers punch because farmers would drink this during hay harvest to stay hydrated and refreshed. It was basically like an early day energy drink, just made with apple cider vinegar, sweetened with maple syrup or honey, with ginger in it.
So it sounds like olden days Lucozade.
Basically, yes, but much better for you.
Yeah.
Do you want to learn another word?
Go on then, hit me.
Sophrosiny. Any idea?
No, though I would wager that it's Greek.
Oh, it is. Yes, well done. And it means moderation or temperance. So it represents a healthy state of mind, which is characterized by self control, moderation, but also a deep sense of empathy. So if you wanted to use this in a sentence, it would be something like, he was supposed to exhibit sophrosiny or self mastery, and overindulging in food, drink, or sex was a sign that man was weak. Okay, so you exhibit sophrosiny. Well, people do. I don't think I do.
Nice. It's a nice word, sophrosiny. It sounds like a name. It sounds like it could definitely be a middle name of one of your children.
It'll probably be the next cat or the next dog.
Just as a reminder to lay off the booze.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad I looked it up though, because I was going to pronounce it Sophrosine.
So, Mother Root is a drink created by Bethan. It's popped up a lot on my Instagram recently as I follow a lot of sober accounts. And it's amazing what the algorithms are feeding me. But I'm here for it because I'm finding out about all these amazing alternatives to that ritual of having that glass of wine a night.
Yeah.
I have such random stuff popping up on my algorithms because I let my children use my phone.
Oh no.
I know. And my husband and I have a joint email or a joint something on our iPhones. And so lately the algorithm's been showing me very specific car detailing, cleaning equipment because his new thing, he gets obsessed with little things for about 3 months and he's obsessed with cleaning the car to within an inch of its life and buying tiny brushes for the inside and special sprays, which I kind of benefit from. But now my whole algorithm is fed with it. Have you ever searched for something and then it's come up and sort of exposed itself to you and it was kind of a private search before?
No. I haven't had anything sort of weird pop up like that so much, but I have had like a flurry of random messages on Instagram asking if I want to advertise vibrators. So I don't know what I've put out there. Maybe it was my penis decanter. But I didn't say anything. I just showed it.
Yes, no, but that's enough. That's all it takes. Like you basically put a glass dildo that had wine in it on the internet.
But it was a picture. It wasn't even words. That's scary.
Did you not hashtag massive glass dildo?
No, I didn't, funnily enough, because it wasn't a dildo, it was a wine decanter. It was classy, very classy, even though it didn't work very well because when you poured it, it sort of spurted out the end and missed the glass.
Oh, great.
Not good. I do feel sorry for my au pair though, who did have a lot of things come up on Instagram. Maybe it was the type of phone she had that I think it seemed to pick up on conversations. And she's a vegetarian, and she just kept getting adverts for meat glue after having a conversation with my husband about it. She was advertised meat glue for about a month.
What is meat glue?
Chefs know it's used a lot in cookery just to glue bits of food together.
Oh, what for presentation after it's cooked?
Yes, so it's edible glue that you can use to stick meat together. It sounds so disgusting.
Just saying the word sticking meat together just sounds awful.
It does. Yeah. Oh, I feel slightly sick now. Um,
Does that mean she was having really horrible glossy pictures of meat just on her feed?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, basically. And just like weird chemical looking pots that are kind of sus. Ugh. I think we should move on from this. We should exhibit some sophrosony when it comes to willies and meat. Should we talk about apple cider vinegar?
No, let's carry on talking about willies and meat.
We need to change this up and sort of cleanse our minds by having a chat about switchels. So, why don't we listen to what Bethan Higson from Motherroot London had to say? Bethan, thank you so much for joining us on the Flock and Hive podcast today.
I'm really thrilled to be talking to you today, Helena.
Well, I'm thrilled to be talking to you because, as a drinks person, I've been watching Motherroot, and I've been very lucky to taste it a couple of times. So I want you to tell everybody about your incredible product, which is Motherroot, why you started it, and why it's so brilliant, basically.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm also a drinks person. I guess that's at the root of how and why I was curious to start Motherroot in the first place. Before I set up Motherroot, I worked in the wine and spirits industry for over a decade. So I was obsessed with all things really big flavour, that sort of all the rituals and romance that surrounds great drinks and food and drink, really. And it was actually through pregnancy that I experienced firsthand the need for delicious options when not drinking. I just saw a real gap. A lot of what was on the market at that time was kind of imitations of existing spirits, rather than like vibrant flavor packed drinks in their own right. And I found that quite curious. I asked myself lots of questions as to why that was. Was it an impossibility, or just something that people hadn't necessarily dug into a little bit or seen that there was maybe interest and demand? But really, it came from a selfish personal need to not have 9 months of drinking just elderflower or fizzy water with lime, and I wanted just something more interesting. So I did a lot of research and discovered these recipes that actually have their roots in ancient Greece, which called for vinegar in amongst the blend, and discovered how vinegar has flavor amplifying properties. And I just thought this is really interesting. It piqued my interest from that kind of like historical fascination, but also made from agricultural ingredients, fermentation, all the buzzwords that I had been talking about from an alcoholic perspective, but applied in a non-alcoholic way. So was interested and curious and started experimenting in my kitchen and created the ginger switchel ultimately, which I decided to launch as Motherroot a few years later, and that was after years of talking about it and sharing it with my friends and realizing that there was a bigger appetite than just me and my pregnant friends, but also my mum and her friends, and and you could just see the development of non-alcoholic drinks much more widely. There were big brands starting to kick off and a lot of noise around the growth of the category, but I could see that my approach was different to what was out there, and that there was still a place for it, and arguably a real big need for it too. So
Hmm. Was anyone doing anything else with vinegar? I remember that Matthew Jukes had his Jukes cordialites, but that was again was I guess mimicking wine, wasn't it? Little vials that you pour into a glass and top up with water.
yeah, he was roughly at the same time. There's also a brand called None Such that was roughly at the same time. I don't know whether, I mean, I got my first inspiration from a New York Times article, so maybe there were just little pockets of research or news that were starting to appear, and those who are like really curious and in that space, in the drinks world space, you pick it up and you read and you experiment. So it was beginning to come out at that point, but there wasn't really anybody else using it. And with Dukes, for example, whilst they're mimicking wine, I would say actually it's probably just mimicking the wine occasion, because the flavors I mean, the ingredients that he's using is not necessarily all or very much from wine. It's sort of building up just a complex flavor palette, which is super interesting, and using the role of vinegar to like bring the complexity, length, mid palate, and that's what I love about the role of vinegar as well, and how varied and it's such a useful, almost like liquid seasoning. It's a really important component of the blend.
So let's talk about vinegar a little bit more because here we're talking about apple cider vinegar rather than, a bottle of Sarsons that you might shove on your chips after a night out. There is a difference, isn't there?
Well, and also within apple cider vinegar, there's a huge difference. It took me 2 years to develop the recipe of Mother Root, and that a big part of that was trying all sorts of different quality levels, styles of vinegars. And I didn't just look at apple cider vinegars, I was looking at wine vinegars, champagne vinegars, grape vinegars, rice vinegars, coconut vinegars, all the different types, and barrel aged vinegars and things like that, to see how they worked, and aged vinegars. And actually, for this particular blend, the the one that I settled on was a very sort of light, delicate, like very premium vinegar, but not one that had too much age or oxidative quality that's got very scrumpy like. I wanted something that had more elegance and lightness to it. Because, yeah, it is quite a powerful flavor, and you have to, I guess, judge what its role is within the blend. And you want it to be balanced. So I guess you're assessing the vinegar as a component part within the blend, and, judging how it's going to then impact and influence the whole picture when you're blending them together. But there is no set rule. You can play around with it. You can add, as I said, if you wanted to develop something quite different but still use vinegar, explore. There's a whole world of different palettes out there, like in terms of colors and textures that you can bring to the blend. It's quite exciting. But yes, you're right. I think, as with alcohol, you've got sort of, you can start with your paint stripper style, really, really not very elegant or good quality, or you can go right up to really high quality levels. It's the same with vinegar. So I think it's quite exciting as well, because I think you can see that the potential for also really bringing out some premium, high quality products through the use of this ingredient is there.
So you did a full vinegar tasting tour before you even started to select it. Oh my, I'd never even considered that might be a thing. I thought apple cider vinegar was apple cider vinegar. And I think I've worked out why it's called Mother Root now, because apple cider vinegar, like, well, the good juicy stuff has mother in it. Can you explain what a mother is in apple cider vinegar?
Well, the mother is life. We chose the name Mother Root in part because it was connected to my story of how I came to making these products myself. It was my journey into motherhood, but also because the mother is at the root of vinegar, and it's a transformational collection of enzymes which transforms alcohol to acetic acid, and it's miraculous, and it's powerful, and I just love that kind of connection to nature, that there is inherent in this product. So the mother, but it's an additional fermentation process effectively. So all vinegars go through two fermentation processes. They go through the alcohol fermentation and then the acetic acid fermentation, and it's the mother that kicks off that second process. And with every fermentation, more flavor builds. That's where you develop those flavor compounds, and that's where it's why it's interesting to me, or people who love flavor.
Yes. So where do you do that? Where do you create or blend your vinegars? Where does that happen?
So we have two places where we make it. I mean, I initially started in my house, and we're talking about very small batch, but then quickly when I realized I wanted this to be a thing, my first launch was in Peckham at a Christmas market stall where I made 180 bottles and they sold out in 6 hours. And I thought, okay. So I launched it, and then I got it listed with the Ledbury, which was my first restaurant listing, which was 2 Michelin star. And I purposefully went there because I wanted to know, okay, this is the real litmus test, is it just my family and friends who like it? Is it just the cool, trendy Peckhamites who like it, or is it also, the tastemakers and premium restaurants who give it the seal of approval? And they did, and they loved it. And actually, interestingly, the staff were all drinking it at the end of the night as well. It was kind of, I don't know, soul enriching, life giving. It's very energizing. I think you feel good after it as well. So as well as it being a delicious treat. So that kind of gave me the confidence. So then I went out to seek where can I make this, and I don't have a. I'm living in Peckham. It's not necessarily an easy place to make it, but we had good friends and contacts where we blend and bottle it just outside London in Buckinghamshire, and then we do our macerations in Herefordshire. So where there's a farm where we make it, and so our process tends to be maceration of our botanicals in the apple cider vinegar to extract the flavour, and that can take anywhere up to sort of 12 weeks to get the full flavour before blending and bottling, where we do that closer to London. But it's been a process of growing and expanding over time, but we still stay really small batch, so we can stay in control of the process.
Yes. We're saying words like sort of life-giving and energizing. Would you put this in the functional non-alcoholic drinks category?
Yeah, what's exciting about non-alcoholic drinks is I think it's just such a blank canvas. Like the future is there to be written. And I like the idea of being able to just be a pioneer in and maybe put out there what I think there needs to be. And I'm doing that not just kind of, on my own. We've been building this community of fans and Mother Root lovers. So we're building it together. They're telling us what they want to see, why it matters to them, where it fits into their life. And when they don't drink, they want a delicious drink. Taste is like number one importance. It has to have hit all of those markers. Like refreshing is what they love about it, which comes from like the balance of tartness with like tart sweet balance with the honey. The burn, they sip it slowly, but they also do like that it's made with ingredients that they actually want in their bodies. So this is quite particular to the non-alc space, that they still want that like occasional and ritual that they might have to replace the alcohol moment. But actually, at that moment when they're choosing to not drink, they're more conscious of what they're putting in their bodies. And so they look at the back label and they say, oh, apple cider vinegar. And I actually know or have heard that this is something that is doing me good, supports digestion. More evidence is coming out to show that it helps to steady your blood glucose levels as well, which people are understanding actually helps reduce inflammation. And it seems to be sort of hitting a number of points. So I would put it within the functional space from that perspective, that it supports your well-being. But for us, pleasure and enjoyment is at the heart of well-being as well. Community, getting together with friends, sharing a glass of something that you're really looking forward to helps you to de-stress. And there's real evidence that when you are relaxed and you are de-stressing, and it's in these moments that you do, that your cortisol levels drop, your digestion improves, you absorb more nutrients. It's a very, like, we really believe in that more holistic approach to well-being. We speak about whole being, where enjoyment really counts too. I've got this lovely story. One of our customers, who actually she's in her 50s. We were speaking to her on the phone. She said, "I buy this for my mother, who's in her 80s, and she lives in a sort of an assisted living community with all her friends who are at similar age." And she said they would get together on a daily basis and share a little glass of wine, but they were really looking for an alternative. They were starting to have like digestive issues and not feeling great, but they loved the ritual of getting together over a glass of wine. She introduced Mother Root to her, and they are all now obsessed. And so in this entire community, assisted living community, they now get together daily to have a little Mother Root. It's Mother Root hour, and they get together and they're now feeling really well. A lot of their digestion issues have gone, but they still use the drink ritual moment as the kind of the libation, the social libation to get together and have a chat. And it's so gorgeous. And like, that's just, that's everything. That's why we do it. It's really motivating to hear things, little stories like that.
It really does tick all the boxes. I really heard what you said before about alternatives just trying to mimic other things, and we know what that means usually, which is they remove alcohol and replace it with chemicals and sugar a lot of the time. Like the amount of sugar in a lot of non-alcoholic wine, even if it doesn't taste sweet, most people wouldn't realize, but you need that to give the body. And actually, I am definitely more health conscious if I'm choosing not to drink, and so to have something that you know is actually going to do your body good is brilliant. Genius.
Yeah, it's an accidental byproduct, really. It was flavor led. I personally really love dry flavored drinks. When I was working in wine, it was cool climate wines, quite sort of low dosage champagnes and Loire Valley wines like that, and like Rieslings and German wines, things that had high acidity and a lot of freshness. And actually, in France, for example, that would be the aperitif, something with a lot of acidity. And there is, even from the functionality of the aperitif moment, is to set yourself up for digestion. So I feel like this is why we're sort of using this traditional ingredient and approach for vinegar based drinks as a kind of modern day aperitif, because it does have that functionality of if you have this just before a meal, it will help to support your digestion. So it is just kind of reimagining the role of the aperitif with different ingredients, basically.
Where does that come from? Switchel.
It's actually a traditional word of a drink that was vinegar based in the US and well, actually before then even the Caribbean, often flavored with spices, often ginger. So the word was switchel, and it was drunk by everybody from sort of farmers to senators, and was also kind of famous in the Prohibition, but then disappeared, and then nobody had heard of it. And I just loved that there was this drink that existed that was known, that had these roots, because as we were talking about earlier, a lot of non-alc has been based on trying to match or imitate alcoholic drinks, and I was more curious to take what's great from alcohol in terms of complexity, ritual, and approach in terms of qualitative approach to how you make it and blend it and source, but not replicate, do something different and add new flavors to the spectrum of what's available.
Yeah. Do you know, I thought you'd made up the word switchel because I thought it was such a great word for something that you might just kind of want to switch up your choices a bit. Almost something that you might have in between or having other drinks as well and just come back to it, or you just want to sort of change the way you drink. So how lovely that it's got that history as well as sounding like it does what it says on the tin.
It does, and you can really play around with it when you want to switch off from the day. But you're so right about switching it up, and that a lot of our customers, they are a lot of them wine drinkers actually, and they are sort of switching in between. They might start the night with the mother root, and then have a glass of wine with their meal, and they're just looking to reduce and still enjoy.
So can we talk a bit more about how it tastes? So you've got one at the moment, which is a ginger switchel.
Yeah, the flavor profile, it's very strong. You get 20 drinks in here, and you just need a small serving of about 25 ml, which you then would lengthen with sparkling water. Some people like it with a tonic if they like a little bitterness. And it's very fiery, zingy, like I said, high acidity, and it's got a bit of a burn to it too. So it lingers afterwards, so you kind of sip it more slowly. And we use blossom honey, so it's a fiery ginger. It's a ginger that we use is from Peru. They're much smaller tubers, very grassy, lemony ginger with a lot of fire. We then you sweeten with blossom honey, which is an orange blossom honey, and so you do get not only more of a richness from the texture of the honey and mouthfeel, but you also have those lovely honey and floral notes that are there as well. And the apple cider vinegar that we use also is very, like I said, light, quite citrusy. It's got lightly fermented apple character to it, rather than being too overly oxidized. It's really fresh, and they just balance each other. We also use a little chili in there just for extra heat, and that's why it's so strong. And depending how strong you like it, I mean, you've got versatility in there about how much you use, but it works really well as a refreshing long drink or in a nice short flavor bomb of a cocktail. You know, if you wanted to do like a twist on a sour, we've got a really simple recipe for a sour. If you like picantes, sometimes if I want a little smokiness, I'll have it with a lapsang souchong tea, and it just adds another layer of complexity to it. It really, really works because you get those kind of whiskey toddy notes when you have it that way, and it's really revitalizing.
You very kindly sent me a bottle of your new label, limited edition label. Can you tell us what you're doing with this collaboration?
Yes, so in total small business transparency, this beautiful bottle, which we're so obsessed with, is the first in a series, limited edition artist series that we're doing this summer. This one is by a London-based artist called Kenya Josiah. Her work is inspired by Cuban and Mexican folk art, and also her own family and her love of vibrancy and commotion and noise and just general love of life. It's so fun to have this on our bottle. But the how we came to this was because we had supply chain difficulties. There was a drama about 2 or 3 months ago where we realized the bottle that we normally use was just out of stock. So not making any more was not an option. But then we said, well, how are we going to move forward? Our bottle supplier said, well, how about this one? This bottle shape is only marginally different. We said, yeah, but then the whole label's got to change and it's going to be so dramatic. And, but actually, then we sat back and said, well, here's an opportunity. If we're going to have to do a new label, what would we want it to say? Yeah, what can we do to make this a really fun expression of what we do in a new way and turning, I guess, lemons into lemonade? And we just couldn't be more delighted. It turned from in constraint, true creativity lies. And I think this has become the most exciting creative project that we've done. And it was so wonderful to see other people's expression of what we're doing and who we are and the vibrancy of the drink on our labels.
That's really, really beautiful. Well done, honestly. Yeah. So can you tell people where can they find Mother Root generally, both in terms of buying it, but also on your socials, etc.?
Yes. So on our socials is probably the best way to reach out to us. We are at Mother Root London, which is LDN. So Mother Root London, one word. Otherwise, the best place to buy Mother Root is through our website, motherroot.london. We're also available on Amazon. But if you sign up on our website, that's where we do our limited releases, and is where you can get hold of the artist series exclusively on our site.
Bethan Higson, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on the show. It's been so nice to chat.
So apple cider vinegar is here to stay, isn't it? After Alice talking about it last week and now this.
I mean, apple cider vinegar, I think, has been a thing for a long time, but we're really only just working out how good it is. Now, we've talked about the fact that it's good for your gut generally, but should we just take a little bit more of a deeper dive into why it's so blimmin' awesome? We should all have it in our diet.
Yeah. And the fact that it isn't just vinegar is vinegar is vinegar. Like, I didn't realize it's like wine and there are so many varieties and different grades as well.
I didn't realise the hierarchy of vinegar. I mean, yeah, I suppose there is the difference between Sarsons and Willies. The one we've got at home is called Willies.
What, are you sure that's vinegar?
Is yes, it's an apple cider vinegar with the mother in it. And we'll talk about what the mother is as well, because I'm a bit scared of mothers in more ways than one. But yeah, back to apple cider vinegar and why it's so dang good. So, like, what have you gleaned from everything we've been talking about?
Mostly that it balances your blood sugar and is really amazing for the gut. And what we've learned before about how everything is stimulated by gut health, isn't it? Like your immune system and your serotonin for your mental health. So it sounds like this is a fast track way via your gut to create a whole holistic wellness.
That's true, and Alice spoke a lot about this, but I was kind of like interested in why. So I had a little look into like more details why it is so good for everything. It's said to lower cholesterol potentially, lower triglyceride levels, reducing the risk of heart disease, blood pressure as well. It can keep that down. It's good for your skin, pH balance. It's anti-inflammatory. You can use it like on your skin if you've got an issue. Like it'll help clean up a bacterial infection.
Vinegar's just awesome, isn't it? Like, we even cleaned our toilet with some vinegar the other day. It was some hardcore industrial stuff that my husband got on Amazon, but it was still vinegar helping us out.
No, exactly. Oh, it also detoxifies the liver, by the way, which is useful to know.
But what's interesting is, we've talked a lot about on these podcasts about things coming from nature to help you, but this does need to go through a process, doesn't it? So is it nature giving us this?
I think it would have been found naturally, wouldn't it? I suppose because you can make it yourself really, really simply. It's basically apples. As long as there's something that will help them ferment, like a bit of sugar, then you just leave it to it, I believe. So I think that's natural.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, actually, yeah, it's leaving something to do its own thing. Yeah, without any intervention, I guess.
Yes.
Tell me more about the mother.
The mother. Yes. So if you've ever seen a bottle of apple cider vinegar, if it's got the mother in it, and it will have it on the label with mother, right? It's this kind of spooky, cloudy, almost gelatinous entity that just sort of hangs in the middle of the bottle and it changes shape. It's actually pretty scary.
What, so it's basically a vinegar ghost,
Yes, it is. It's a vinegar ghost, and the fact that it's called the mother.
like in Psycho.
Well, there's often a mother character in a horror film, but it is a good thing. And apparently, it's a sort of mix of cellulose and acetic acid bacteria, and that is formed during the fermentation process of the vinegar. But that really, really boosts the nutritional qualities of the vinegar in it. So it's the best thing you can do is just to keep the mother in there.
So it's not in every bottle. Is it like a lottery? Like, oh, I got the mother.
Well, it will say it's either deliberately in there or it isn't, because some people don't like it. But because, it makes the vinegar particularly cloudy, a bit like natural wine, doesn't look pristine and perfect.
I have a bit of a problem with things in bottles of liquid I buy, even if it's supposed to be there.
Like those aloe vera drinks with a kind of it's kind of nice, but also kind of freaky clumps of aloe vera just hanging about.
Yeah. But no, I just don't trust things in water. And I think it could be, do you remember Poltergeist, the horror film back in the day?
I managed to avoid that, I think, unless it freaked me out so much I've completely burnt out all the memory from my brain. I don't remember it, no.
They're here when they come out the TV.
No.
In one of the poltergeists, someone drinks some water and there's a tiny, tiny little worm in it. And then later on in the film, that person vomits out half a sloppy skeleton. So I do wonder if my trauma might be related to that. Or the aforementioned mayonnaise in the glass of Coke that we've mentioned before that you served me. That's
Mm.
probably added to that. So yeah, the mother hanging around adds a little bit more ick for me.
Depends how you feel about your mother as well, which
Mm.
obviously we adore us. Yes.
I drink kombucha quite a lot. I must say I have to sort of, whilst drinking the vinegary taste, I have to keep telling myself, "It's good for you, it's good for you," because I don't really totally enjoy it.
Mm. There's a time and a place for kombucha, I feel, taste-wise. But it's quite a good thirst quencher, isn't it? But again, it's the same thing. I think it's anything fermented. So apple cider vinegar, kombucha, yes, but also what we do at home now is we try and have a massive spoonful of like live Greek yogurt with some chia seeds in it before we have a meal. Hamish and I have just trying to be doing that because it has the same effect of just balancing the blood glucose, and that's less vinegary.
I've actually, after last week, I actually made a purchase on Alice Bettany's website at Sacred Seeds, and I've got the digestive little tonic coming along, which you take before meals. So I imagine is along the same lines as that.
Oh, that's lovely. That's good. I was tempted by the love drops.
Love drop. So is that some kind of like natural Viagra? Are you going to go around humping everything and wanting to shag every man who walks past?
It sounds like it should be, shouldn't it? But apparently not. It's a calming tonic for when you're feeling a little overwhelmed and anxious. It's a bit like I think her version of Rescue Remedy.
Oh, okay. So love as in love, not as in shagging.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's the case. However, I would be in the market for the other kind of love drops, I think.
Well, I'm sure you could get your hands on something.
Oh, I'll have to ask her. Maybe she can create one if there isn't one already. Yeah, there must be natural Viagra. How have we missed this in all our chat about medicinal herbs?
Oh, there is, isn't there? There is something that's supposed to really help, like with especially with the quality of semen as well. I'll have to look into that. Yeah, we'll do a podcast about getting horny off nature.
Yeah, I do actually. I do actually want to know all about that, quite frankly.
So when we talked to David about Sentia and the GABA technology and functional drinks, this is a bit different to that, isn't it? Because Sentia was about getting that 2 to 3 drink buzz feeling, whereas Mother Root isn't necessarily about that, is it? But it is functional in its health benefits with vinegar. Is that what we're talking about here?
Yes, it is. I mean, as far as I see functional drinks, it's either how they make you feel or they have like incredible health benefits. And occasionally you get two of those things together. When you taste mother root, it's so punchy on the ginger and the acidity that it really does feel like invigorating, like a livener.
Plus, just a bit more interesting. Like if you are wanting to replace that ritualistic glass of wine every night, it needs to be more interesting. It needs to feel more like I'm not just having another cup of tea. Um, it's all about drinks now, isn't it? Have you heard of the 3 drink theory?
No, but I feel I should have done, seeing as I'm one of the three drinkers. How have I missed this?
Well, it's actually not about booze at all, not about any kind of alcohol. It's basically the kids on TikTok, in order to survive a day, they have to have 3 drinks going at the same time. And there's one for hydration, one for fun, and one for energy. And it's like the trifecta: caffeinate, alleviate, hydrate. But then what also came from it was something called the emotional support water bottle that never gets touched. It's just there. But do you remember when we were younger, we didn't even have water bottles. Starbucks didn't exist. And now everyone's walking around with these stupid, massive Stanley cups, and they're 3 drinks for emotional support. I find it really funny.
How many hands do you have to have? How many arms? What else? Are you not carrying anything else? What?
Well,
Uh,
someone had actually invented a cup with 3 sections and straws coming out.
really?
When we were pregnant, do you remember, like, I'd go into a pub and genuinely it was a choice between J2O or Coke, or, like she mentions, lime in soda water. And after a while, you're just bored.
No, exactly. Occasionally there was ginger beer, but you can't really have more than one of those because they're so packed full of sugar as well, especially the commercial ones in the pubs. Then, yeah, I mean, I've got a question. Did your dreams change throughout your pregnancies? Because I had weird ones. I'm having a weird flashback now to a very hot dream I had, literally, when I humped a radiator in my dream.
What? Like, okay, all right, we need to dissect. Was there nothing else on offer? Was that I mean, it's your dream. It's your dream. You could choose anything in the world. You could choose Idris Elba. You could choose an amazing Adonis sex toy, horse, and you chose the radiator.
A horse! Have you just given us a load of your your fantasies right there?
I think I've just bared my subconscious a bit too much. But no, seriously, was there nothing else on offer? You were like humping the radiator.
Do you know what? It's a very good question. I know I've never looked it up, but I'm actually tempted to do that while I'm talking to you. Shall I? Shall I just have a
Oh,
look?
what, like a dream dictionary? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, to dream of is that even going to be in it? Let's see. To dream of radiator meaning. Let's have a look. To dream about a radiator refers to someone whom you can always rely on to make you feel warm and comfortable. Okay, so it's referring to somebody, but is that saying I don't have anyone, so I need an inanimate object? Surely not.
So once again, we've got from a beautiful, functioning alternative to alcohol to humping radiators.
Seamless! Yes. So it's probably a good time to put this to bed so we can all pretend we didn't hear your deepest, darkest fantasies about having sex with horses.
Yes, good call.
Join us next week when it will be the last in series 2. Yes, stay tuned. There's going to be quite a nice giveaway coming up over on Instagram fairly soon. And don't forget to rate us if you like us, helps bump us up the charts. And just really thank you so much for sticking with us. And we will be back at this time next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.